Good evening, everyone. We'll call the meeting to order. This is the City of Frankfort Board of Commissioners work session. Today is April 11th. Welcome, everyone. And I'll ask our city clerk to call for the roll, please.
Commissioner Waldridge.
Present.
Commissioner May.
Present.
Commissioner Unger.
Present.
Mayor Wilkerson.
Present. And we do have a quorum. First on the agenda, ceremonial and recognition. Do we have any announcements to make?
I just have one that came across, which was congratulations to Kentucky State University Honda Campus All-Star Challenge National Academic Tournament. They have not only made it to the Final 8, but they've now made it to the Final 4, and now they are in the Final 2. And this will take place this evening at 6 p.m. So they are going up for another victory and hoping they will bring it home. It's been a while since they've been in the Honda Championship. And there are, oh goodness, I think there's 4 of them. Don't know their names. I didn't get all their names, so I won't mention names. But I think there's 4 of them on there, and they are led by Miss Katiana. She is no longer a Yates. I think she got married, but she is the team leader there. So super excited to have them going forward. They are in the Honda All-Star Challenge tonight at 6 p.m., and they will be on YouTube and Facebook if anybody wants to follow along. And just another shout out, we thank Dr. Aaron Thompson with CPE. And we thank all of the community, all of the residents, all of our officials here for writing a letter in support of KSU of passing that House Bill 250. All of our residents, alumni near and far, everyone that made a phone call, that sent an email and saying that we supported Kentucky State University. Thank you, job well done. They heard us, so now let's get to work. Let's make this relationship stronger. Let's get Kentucky State thriving with this town gown association here in Frankfort, and let's just continue moving forward. So I want to give a big applause and thank you to everyone that helped getting this passed. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Waldridge. Commissioner Unger.
I just want to add in, I had the honor to go to Kentucky State University for the academic honors convocation. So the mayor was out of town. Actually, everybody else was out of town but me. So I got to go present the mayor's award to Jason Robinson, and it was great. And also congrats to all the students that were honored that day. So
Thank you.
Thank
For
you.
doing that.
Yeah, it was great.
We were on vacation, sorry.
And I should point out today that the governor signed House Bill 242. I think that was the name. And within that bill was $3.5 million funding for the crossing at the Broadway Bridge. So that's something that we've been working on for a while. So that turned out to be a good, working with our consultants and our representatives in the General Assembly and others in the General Assembly. So I want to thank all of them and thank everyone for their support and thank the governor for signing the bill today. So it's going to be a great start, a good anchor for our downtown master plan and riverfront development plan. Big news. Any other items? Okay, seeing none, we'll go to citizens' comments. We have one, David Hecker. Would you like to approach the bench? And just state your name and
Hello,
who
my
you're
name is
with.
David Hecker. I'd like to thank you all for this opportunity and glad we're getting back to some of the in-person meetings. So I just had one comment on the portable restrooms for the parks. I think that's a good idea. I know that it's been discussed for Dolly Graham Park, and I'm hoping it's also available for some of the other parks, specifically Riverview Park, which I think is in desperate need of that. Now that we have the e-bike rentals, we have the Kentucky River Tours that are down there, as well as the Canoe Kentucky. I think that would be a very welcome addition. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Hecker.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions, follow-up? Okay, we'll move on to staff reports.
Thank you, Mayor. The first staff report is from Katie Beard, our Director of Public Works, and she's providing an update on our stormwater drainage, storm sewer report, which is pretty timely given the increased reports and requests we have from citizens facing a lot of drainage issue with all the rain that we've had. So I appreciate you giving an update.
Thank you.
So
we don't talk about stormwater a lot. I talk to you all a lot about paving and sidewalks and recycling and other things, but I just wanted to kind of give you something to think about. We had several projects in our budget this year, several KIA funded projects that we have completed, including Holly Hills and the Blanton Acres Stormwater Improvement Program. We're wrapping up Holly Hills and closing out the Blanton Acres project now. We have one more KIA funded project that's probably going to go over into next year, and that is the Franklin Mayer project in the Holmes Street area. That one will kind of go hand in hand with some money that we are applying for some federal money on the Holmes Street appropriations. And that's what I've given you a handout of, kind of the project area, and the bold line there represents some pipes that we will replace. They're aging and deteriorated pipes that are on a very flat grade, so they don't drain very well at all. They've got silt deposits in them. And we're thinking we may need to construct a stormwater pump because the grades are so flat in that area. We may work with the sewer department on their Willow Street pump station upgrades and put in a stormwater pump to pump it downstream where it can flow and get the water out of that area. We do receive complaints on a regular basis in that area, but if we can do that bigger project, estimated in the $2 million range, then we can also kind of set the stage to fix the problems back in the neighborhood that feed into this large collector system. And that is the Franklin Mayer project that we do have KIA funding for. So that'll kind of all work together. So we'll hope that we can get going with those projects. We've also got a few small projects that we're designing in-house. We've done surveying in the past year, and we are hoping to get the construction done in May and June. I've sat down with the street department and kind of mapped out our schedule and everything that we have going on. Of course, we have the weather to contend with and other things come up, but we're hoping to get a small project addressed in Silver Lake on Furlong Court. And along with that, we may address an issue on Winter Circle, which is just across the Silver Lake from the Furlong Court area. Those are a flooding and safety concern there. We've also got a project on Hanley Lane and Galbraith Road that we have water getting in a couple of basements and crawl spaces. Every time it rains heavily, they get bombarded. So we're going to try to address that. And then the third one is over on LaFoon and Patricia Drive. There's several properties that get water in their crawl spaces and ponding just everywhere in that area. So we're going to try to address that. But the one thing I would like to point out on the second page that I gave you is this is just open work orders in our system currently. You can see they're spread out all over town. I'd like to kind of develop a more focused approach so that we can be proactive in our stormwater addressing the problems rather than reactive as we are now. So right now we get all these complaints that you're seeing on the map, and we just jump around all over town addressing one little area at a time. A lot of times it's just which ones are the easiest to fix. Can we just put a curb on the street to keep the water out of the yards? And those get addressed first. When really some of the bigger problems get left for last because they cost more money and they take more time and resources to address. So what I'd like to do moving forward, and probably what you'll see in the upcoming budget, is ask for some money for modeling and a stormwater management plan so that we can progressively go through the town and identify where the problems are and address maybe 5 or 6 problems at a time instead of one at a time, just jumping around like we are now. So that's something just to kind of put out there for you to think about and to prepare you for what you'll see on the upcoming budget requests. And then The last thing I just wanted to touch briefly on is that Home Street project. Like I said, it is a roughly $2 million project. That would be an 80-20 cost share if we were successful in getting that. We did fill out and complete the application today, so fingers crossed for that. So I just wanted to kind of come to you guys because I know that you probably get contacted as well from individual citizens with these problems. And I just wanted you to get a sense for how widespread the problems are in the town. I mean, we've got drainage and flooding and standing water and capacity issues all over Frankfort. And so we try to prioritize those and address them as quickly as we can. But honestly, some of them take too long to get to. And so I want to come up with this plan to address them overall. But any questions?
On the second page, these are all stormwater.
Yes, these are all
Complaints.
stormwater. Some of them will be just a catch basin is not draining well, and that's an easy thing to fix. You just go clean it out. Some of them might be a ditch needs to be cleaned out, but others are bigger problems where ponding is happening in their yards. It's damaging their properties. It's damaging their homes. It's getting inside their homes, and so those are some bigger issues we need to address.
And on the Home Street, $2 million, it looks like that just goes along the road there. Is that gonna,
Yes,
are we gonna
that
tear up the road there? Is that the state?
it may be along off the edge of the road. It may impact the road. I'm not sure. We're going to coordinate. Like I said, the sewer department has a Willow Street pump station project that we're going to try to coordinate so that we can follow along the same path. And if they are in the road, I don't know if Kenny knows off the top of his head, then we might follow along in the road with them. But we're coordinating all of that with our raise grant as well so that we don't pave the street or do any upgrades like that until the infrastructure work is completed.
Any other questions?
So,
Commissioner May?
as we move, first off, thank you for taking a proactive stance on this and trying to address it as we move forward. I definitely favor that type of thinking rather than reactive, but so I'm happy to hear that we're moving that direction. When, as we look and identify projects, you talked about how there's several larger ones that sometimes get pushed aside just simply from a money cost. Do we factor in though the cost of pushing those away and looking at how they can lead to more problems by letting them just continue to
Right.
manifest there? And will that be a part of the plan moving forward? Will we be able to strategically say, not only is it a big project, but if we don't address it now, it could lead to more erosion, more damage, more
Yeah.
moving forward?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think we want to take a comprehensive look at every problem area and address them with that in mind. And like you say, if you push them off, it may become a bigger erosion issue. You may lose more of the riverbank, or you may lose more of your yard, or you may undermine your road if you just keep letting the water pond like that. So yeah, there is a bigger picture. It does affect a lot of other aspects of the community. So it is costly. Sometimes it's $1 million project, but you have to think about the big picture and plan it out.
You had mentioned Hanley. What was the other road with Hanley?
Hanley, when you turn the corner, it's Galbraith.
Gal.
When you make that 90-degree turn.
Yeah, I know in Furlong and Winter Circle out there, I know you and I went out there and we saw some of that flooding and ponding there around the homes. And I like the fact that you're looking into the planning and the modeling, because that's something that I think that we brought up of saying, if we fix one issue of the people who are complaining the loudest, is that an issue that's coming from somewhere else? And if we try to fix that, is it going to continue to do that? So I do like the modeling and planning portion of it for us to know where everything is going, so we can fix it all at one time versus fixing one and then going here and seeing that something else is issue. So I do appreciate that.
Yeah, that is one thing when you're relying on the community to tell you where your problems are.
Right.
It's just sometimes a certain few
Right.
that tell you, and some of them don't realize that that's their option to tell you they have a problem and
Right.
get it fixed.
Yeah.
So I think the modeling and the planning will help with that.
I like that idea. Thank you.
I'm sure there's software for that, right?
Absolutely. Thank you all.
Thanks,
you.
Katie.
Our next staff report will be from Sean Pickens, who's going to present the ideas for applying for a grant under the Land and Water Fund. And this proposal is due, I believe, at the end of the month, so we wanted to give you a heads up.
May 31st.
May 31st, give you a heads up so we can vote on it at the next voting session.
Thank you. Good evening. As you all are aware, the city's applied for land and water conservation funds multiple times in the past. It's federal funds that come down, funneled through the state. The last one that we applied for, obviously, was Dolly Graham. So now that we're getting close to that project wrapping up, we can apply, for another round. And like we just mentioned, it's due May 31st, the application. Rebecca has written hundreds of these, so she's ready to go. We just have to narrow down a project. So as we were in our discussions and we were talking about a couple of ideas, probably the most, almost shovel-ready projects that we have, and one that's kind of a topic currently, and it is part of our master plan, is the tennis courts at Juniper Hill. It was one that we kind of tossed around as a need. There's some question marks, though, with what it's going to cost. We anticipate some foundation issues up there. Those courts were built in a swale, and there was fill dirt put in, and there's a lot of dead spots currently, and if you look at it from above and look down at it, you can see them starting to cave in. There's just a lot of issues with them. So we did get some quotes on resurfacing and reconstructing that. Anywhere between $150,000 to $200,000 to do a complete reconstruct of the courts, just the courts themselves. That wouldn't include lighting, fencing, and and other unknown foundation issues that we might run into when we get in there. So we don't really have a super great idea of what the total cost would be. It could be anywhere from $300,000-400,000 upwards of $600,000, give or take. But we don't really know. So that's one project that we have been giving some consideration for Land and Water for the grant. Other potential projects, East Frankfort, is also another park that's got a lot of age on it, has been around for a long time, and it's been a focus of ours to try to start putting some investment dollars into to start renovating it as well. So the master plan has multiple millions of dollars worth of investments into East Frankfort. So the question is, where do you start? And that's a good question. There are several things at East Frankfort we could look at. The playgrounds are needed desperately in East Frankfort. Restrooms, the old tennis court area up there that was ripped up. The master plan currently calls for 2 multi-purpose courts to go in, which can be used for tennis, but it can also be used for pickleball or futsal and other sports as well. Only problem there is that those user groups sometimes conflict a little bit, just because they want to use the same courts at the same time, so it's kind of difficult. In an ideal world, we'd build tennis courts and pickleball courts and keep them separate, but being tight on space, might not be possible. Or if we make the decision to put tennis courts back or some tennis courts back, we can do that. Or we can do a couple of tennis courts and a couple pickleball courts. There's a lot of options that we can look at there as well. Then another idea as well is potentially Thornhill, next to the Adult Education Center, looking at maybe some upgrades there as well. So those are kind of the areas that we're kind of tossing around. So just kind of wanted to get your feedback, take any questions on kind of what or other ideas that you guys may have.
Commissioner Watt?
So when we're applying for this grant, I know the last grant that we had, all funds went to one park.
Yes.
Would we be stuck in that, or are you saying that with the 3 proposals that you're giving us, that it's all gonna be wrapped in one, saying if we get this amount of money, these are the things we're looking at, or are we gonna try to focus on which one we think is moving forward? So are we looking at one project
Yes.
out of these 3,
Yes.
or,
Yes,
okay.
yes.
And
So much of the grant is focused on like the area that surrounds it, you know, the community, the you know, the most, like the neighborhoods that surround it, low income, that kind of item. So spreading it around to different parks would make it a lot harder.
got it.
Rebecca can answer that better, but it would make it a lot harder to win the grant if you're kind of doing something at Juniper Hill and at East Frankfort, you know, because you're kind of you're serving the same community, obviously, but you're impacting different areas of the city. So we would focus on one project.
Who's gonna make that decision on which one we focus on? Is it just which one we think is gonna, working with our consultant to decide which one's gonna look best?
Well, yeah, it would be a decision. We would assume a joint decision of all of us, of the commission, of myself and the city manager, as well as consultants can pinch into that as well. Yeah.
So with your Thornhill, I know that I serve on the Parks Master Plan. I know we've mentioned it. I think we've mentioned it a couple of times in meetings. With Thornhill, is that decision for that sort of where the little park area is now?
Yes.
To expand that, but also put an outdoor, not facility, but like a concert area. Where is that still in the plan for Thornhill?
It is in the concept plan for
Okay.
Thornhill. Yes, that doesn't mean it has to happen. Yeah, it's
Right,
all concept.
But it was in the concept. No, I really
Yes.
like that concept in that small community, being that we
Yes.
have so many home bands and things that play quite a bit. I did like that
Yeah.
in there. I do like Juniper Hills. However, if you're stating in regards to financial, you know, like of the community around those areas, that is more toward an area of golf and things of that nature. So I'm a little iffy on whether or not that would be pushed through before the Thornhill, because you can wrap Thornhill in there as someone to also support that particular park outside the school, even though I've been pushing tennis courts because I would like them surfaced tomorrow. But with Juniper Hills, you mentioned the word swelling, that it was built in a swelling area. Could you explain that a little bit more? And is it safe for us to resurface tennis courts there in the same area? Or do we need to look at putting pickleball there or something else instead of, are you going to say that in 10 years that, well, it was built here, we're going to do it again?
Yeah, that's a question I can't really answer. It's built. There was a swell there, basically a large drainage ditch, and then when the courts were built, they was just filled in with just random field dirt from different areas and compacted down.
Okay.
And then the tennis courts were built on top of that. And so just now it's just from without getting in there and tearing them out and doing soil samples and drilling core samples and all that, just by what we can see from the surface, you know, we anticipate there being foundation issues. Do we know that for sure? No. We're taking an educated guess that there's foundation because there's cracks. Tennis courts are cracked all over the place. You can see a big slope on the far end. The lighting on the far end towards the doctor's offices, the lighting is at a 45-degree angle, slipping off the hillside. So we got a pretty good clue that that the tennis courts are sinking. So how much foundation work is going to take, that's the unknown. We really don't know until we bring somebody in that does that kind of work. An engineer would have to come in and say, you're going to need this much fill dirt, you know, you're going to need this type of fill dirt, you know, this type of compaction. And will it have to sit for 2 months, or will it have, you know, all the X's and O's that we just don't know. And that, you know, that could take a little bit of time and money as well, obviously.
I got a question.
Commissioner?
I'm wondering, so I obviously wasn't around when we applied for the grant for Dolly Graham. How dialed down to a plan does it have to be when you apply? And
Not super specific, but it has to be your broad spec, like for Dolly Graham. It had your playground and splash pad had to be nailed down.
Okay.
Yeah. Now the exact size of the splash pad, that can vary. The exact size of the playground, that could vary. But if you if you say in your grant application you're going to build a playground and you estimate it to be X amount of dollars, and you're going to build a splash pad estimated to be a certain amount of dollars, if then you come in and we're not going to do a playground now, we do something totally different.
Doesn't work.
That's not possible.
Yeah.
You just have to have the general,
Yeah.
all the detail can come a little bit later.
Well, I mean, I obviously think we need all of these eventually. So
It's only a $250,000 grant
Yeah, so
with a
I would-
match, 500 total. With that includes a
Yeah.
50% match. So
So
it's
I
really-
would support whatever staff thinks would get us the money,
okay.
possibly,
as we
because
get
we need
something.
all of these things sooner
Yes,
than
I
later.
agree. East Frankfort, we have a concept plan. There's so many things at East Frankfort, that's a need. We'll really need to get more in-depth community input. When we did the master plan, we got a concept plan. We have ideas. We did some community input then, quite a bit, but it was more of a grander scheme. It was not so specific to exactly, at this park, exactly all these little amenities. So we'll have to just we've got the grand scope and then kind of scoping it down. So East Frankfort still needs a little bit of that massaging to get down, how many multipurpose courts, or do we want just strictly tennis? Do we want half and half pickleball and tennis? Or do we want all pickleball? Or, all those kind of things. So, or is a playground more important? Playground and a shelter, playground and restrooms and X, Y, and Z. Is that more important than tennis courts there? If we can find another way to renovate Juniper, or work with Kentucky State or the schools, in conjunction with that. So there's a lot of things there. So East Frankfort's got a lot more work to do, on the front end to really narrow that down. If that makes sense.
Commissioner May?
But it's also a need.
One of the things that kind of bring the conversation together, a point you brought up, which I really appreciate, and a point that I was going to piggyback on, is obviously listening to your all's opinions on what you think is the direction to go, but focusing also on what, once we use that money, which one allows us to maximize the efficiency of that money for the longest time, so that we're not coming back and it doesn't feel like we wasted it at that point, but which one's the best investment in the long run that we don't have to keep going back to. And if it's, if we know we need a bathroom in a park, it may not be the most exciting thing, but you need it. Use that money for that. That's the easiest thing to maintain.
Yeah.
And then we know we still need tennis courts and stuff. Then we make that happen as well. If that just needs to be something we choose to move forward with. But that's going to be a conversation, a piece that's going to help me make that decision of what will allow the money to go the furthest, the longest.
Yeah.
Commissioner?
And I do want to mention, you brought up Kentucky State, and I was just speaking with someone the other day at Kentucky State because the K Club donated $10,000 to Kentucky State to help move the track forward, right? Because the track's been out of commission since 1996. And it's been concrete, and they have a ton of tennis courts up there. Does it behoove us to say that we work with them to maybe you add them in, and maybe we do away with our tennis courts at Juniper Hill and put something else that our community needs in that space, and revitalize those? Because I want to say there's at least 6, I think, 4 to 6
At Juniper,
at the K-State.
K-State, there's 6 if I'm not.
I was
not
thinking
mistaken.
so. And
Then
they're
there's a
all-
half practice, a half court practice.
Right, and so maybe that's something we could look into to work with them to say, hey, maybe that will be our area to go, and because I know they did away with their tennis team quite some time ago. But that may be something, since
Yeah.
it's already there, we can help resurface and maybe do something else with that. I agree, I just don't want it to sink again in 10 years and we're wasting that money.
That's what I'm
again.
saying.
But I
We just
understand
don't
the
know
testing and the soil.
what kind of money we'd have to put into the foundation. We know we're going to
I
have to fix the
understand.
foundation. It's just
Yeah.
what's it going to cost
Okay.
to fix the foundation. We just don't know that yet.
Well,
So-
I agree with whatever you see fit. You've been doing this a while. I agree with Lisa that they all need to be done. I could see that. I really like the Thornhill idea that we had spoke about a while back as well, but I definitely know the tennis courts need to be done very quickly. But just let us know.
Yeah, I mean, the courts at Juniper are the only, I guess, pure public courts in the city.
Yeah.
People can use K-State, people can use the school systems,
Yeah.
but the school systems are the school systems. So if they're
Right.
they're having a match, you can't use them.
Right.
You know, K-State's
Yeah.
obviously aren't being used, but they're not in good shape either.
Right.
You know, so
No, they're
our courts are really the only, I guess, publicly available, you know, courts to be used, and they're not in good shape.
Okay.
There's dead spots all over the place. They look terrible. There was a quick patchwork job several years ago. It did okay for a few years. You know, it was a relatively cheaper option to go than totally reconstructing them, and it did okay for a few years, but that's long since past its life expectancy. So
Well, Sean, I know we can circle back with you and Rebecca and bring back to the commissioners,
Yeah.
what you all find is best.
yeah,
Getting
I'll
into
get with
details.
Rebecca, and we'll have further discussions and go from there.
Thank you, Sean.
Yeah,
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to discussion items. And number 1, Melanie Van Houten from Josephine Sculpture Park, and Frank Arts, and others probably.
Yes, the list goes on. Today, I'm here to talk to you guys about Josephine Sculpture Park and the Arts Downtown program and several other partnerships that the Sculpture Park has been engaged in that involve city, either projects, grants that we're working on with the city directly, or partnerships and collaborations with other organizations that are within the city. And so my name is Melanie Van Houten, and I'm the founding director of Josephine Sculpture Park. I'm also a founding member of the Franklin County Arts Council, aka Frank Arts, which manages the Arts Downtown exhibition. So I want to thank you all for your support last year of Arts Downtown. That was a huge support to us, and we were able to, continue that program with your support. And so that's the kind of stuff I'm going to talk to you about today. And I have pictures, of
We
course.
love Humpty.
Yes. So you've probably noticed some of the new sculptures that have been going up around downtown. That is part of the Arts Downtown exhibit that we started in 2018. I think was when we first kind of initiated that program, and it was kind of came to be out of the On the Table event that we had in the community. And Rich Rosen had the idea to, really invest in public art in the city of Frankfort as an economic development initiative. And he provided the initial seed money, which was a very generous donation to us to start that program. And then we already had an agreement with the city, exhibiting sculptures primarily in Riverview Park. But this enabled us to really expand that, and the sculptures are on a 2-year rotation, so we just changed those out. They originally installed then in 2019, and then we traded them out in 2019. Or traded them out in 2021, and then a few of them kind of happened in January or February of this year. So, but we're still calling it 2021. So I am going to talk just a teensy bit about the sculpture park. Just for any of you, I know we've been locked down for 2 years, and some of you maybe have been out there a lot in that time, but some of you maybe have just been totally consumed with life because it has felt totally overwhelming, I think, to most of us. So a lot has been happening at the park over the last couple years, and last year we had 22,000 visitors at the park. We had 220 live and virtual programs or events, tours, and performances, which reached over 120,000 people virtually, and 2,200 people in person, came to tours or a workshop or that kind of thing. This is our new park map, which is really exciting. And so if you haven't been out to the park, I just want to invite you to come out and remind you, really what our mission is to connect people to each other and the land through the arts. And part of, the importance of Arts Downtown is that it really enables us to bring art to where people live and work. If you can't get to the sculpture park, we're going to bring it to you. It helps us fulfill our mission by providing art experiences to the community at no charge, just like the sculpture park. So specifically, I want to talk a little bit about our Art in Public Places program, the biggest part of which is Arts Downtown. We installed 11 new sculptures in Frankfort for the 2-year exhibit. The one on the left is in front of Broadway Clay, and the one on the right is in front of Completely Kentucky. These sculptures are primarily for the most part on Broadway and Main Street, but there are a few kind of outliers, and of course we've exchanged a few in Riverview Park as well. But the idea is to to get people walking and looking at things, and then hopefully walking into stores and restaurants and supporting local businesses. That really is like the intent of it. Of course, I am a proponent of art for art's sake, but there are a lot of other benefits that the community can reap, which is the goal of this program. We worked with tourism, as we always do as part of the Frank Arts Call, and we received over 100 applications for the sculpture call. We're in the process of working with tourism right now to update a card that can be a sculpture trail for people to follow. And there will also be 2 awards given this year. Those will be financial awards to the artists. One is going to be Best in Show, which will be selected by the Frank Arts Committee, and the other is the People's Choice Award. And again, we're trying to engage the community, and as I said, we're going to work with tourism on that and the city as well to get different opportunities for people to be able to vote on that. And so we envision that happening sort of over the summer and into the fall, and then the awards being given kind of at the end of the year for that. Let's see, and then I just included several of the sculptures that are part of the new call. If you haven't seen any of these, I'm going to challenge you to go out and find them. There is a map. Oh, this is another piece of it, is that the Frankfort Public Art Tour is housed on the Frankfort Tourism website, and the Sculpture Park and Tourism work together to maintain that. So we're in the process right now of working with Robin to get the new images up, take the old ones down, put the new information in there, so that people can go to the website, and there are QR codes on all of those signs that people can scan with their phone, and it'll take them to the map so they can follow and look for all the other sculptures and the murals as well. So there's a few other of the sculptures that are installed downtown, and then the one on the right there is installed at Esprit Credit Union. We also manage that and curate that exhibition space that's at the corner of it's Martin Luther King and the Connector. But we traded one of those sculptures out this time too, and that came through the Frank Arts Call, and just seemed appropriate for that location as well, but still in the city. We did one large mural in the fall, and we had 85, almost 100 applications for that call, and we selected David Carmack Lewis from Oregon to do the mural on the side of Broadway Clay, in partnership with Broadway Clay and Pat Bacon, the owner of that building. David was here in Frankfort for 4 weeks and stayed at a local Airbnb and basically lived downtown and walked to work every day and painted on the mural, and we also had a meet the artist reception once the mural was completed. And so if you haven't been by to see that one up close, I recommend you taking a look at that. It's inspired by the Frankfort landscape and the river and Cove Springs a little bit. We have been doing tours of the Frankfort Public Art Tour in conjunction with Frankfort Tourism. Those happen once a month in the warmer months. The ones starting this year, the next tour will be on May 14th, and you can register for those at josephinesculpturepark.org/events. You can see when all the upcoming ones are happening, and they all start at Frankfort Tourism, and then they will also end there. But the tours will all be a little bit different. So depending on who gives the tour, they'll focus on slightly different things. So hopefully people will come more than once. A lot of community partners in 21 and 22, and I sort of separated these into Frankfort organizations we have worked and are really excited to be working with the King Center again this year. Yes Arts, we've worked with them for several years. The Black Women Artists of Frankfort Network, the Grand Theater, Kentucky Dance Academy, Frankfort Audubon, and Frankfort Tourism. And then a few of our partners that are outside the city of Frankfort, Kentucky Migrant Education Program, River City Drum Corps, and Stewart Home and School. And I think the Bluebirds of Central Kentucky somehow didn't make it onto the slide, but he's got a picture in the lower right-hand corner. A few program highlights. One specifically was the Symphonic Stroll that we partnered with the Lexington Philharmonic and the Kentucky Dance Academy. So we had an artist in residence, and Andrea Stanislav, who had choreographed a performance called Reflect, and we worked with the students from Kentucky Dance Academy, the advanced students. They performed the choreography to Reflect. So you can see some of the dancers in these images with the silver reflective costumes on. That was a really great opportunity for the students to be involved in a professional dance experience. Oh, and we're doing that again. It'll be different music, also with Lexington Philharmonic, but different pieces of music and at different sculptures. And I don't know if KDA would be involved again. Andrea isn't here. We won't be doing Reflect with it again, but some of those details are still yet to be determined. But the date is set for September 10th, so mark your calendars for that. The last 2 years at the park have been full of growth, and we have seen more park visitors. We've had more people visiting the Arts Downtown program. We purchased additional land, and we've increased the exhibit, which meant we needed to build capacity. We didn't have staff to manage all of the amazing things we were doing. So we hired a marketing and communications manager and a park manager and artist in residence who lives at the park all year round. And our most recent staff person is Karen Lanier, our admin assistant. And this is also partially funded by an NEA grant we got with ARP funds that specifically supports staff and marketing. So very exciting. Projects that we're working on this coming year with the city specifically. We're partnering with the city on an NEA grant that we received. I can't even keep up with the years, and COVID has been weird with grants, but we have already received this grant, have been approved for the grant, to support the purchase. That we'll be commissioning a sculpture that's sort of coordinated with the Tiger Street project, so it'll be on the corner of Bridge and 2nd Street, and that's what that landscape map is. That's the overhead of that intersection where there's a round plinth that's there right now that you can see, and it'll be landscaped around it. That plinth is for a sculpture that we will be managing the call with input from Frankfort Independent School kids. We did a residency with Jerry Howell to get input from the kids, and then that will be used to create the call. That sculpture should be installed by the end of the year. We're excited about that. Chuck has been great to work with on that. And then we're also partnering with the city and Focus on Race Relations to commission a sculpture that will be placed at the opposite end of the Singing Bridge. You've probably heard from Ed Poe and FOR about the project that we've been working on with FOR. That's another hat of mine. That with the Equal Justice Initiative to get a historic marker placed at the north end of the Singing Bridge to mark it as a designated lynching site, and the sculpture that will be purchased by the city to go at that location will be specifically for that location. So we're going to work. That's going to be a very special call, and we're going to get community input on that, and but that'll be a piece that's purchased by the city, and we're managing that. So we're excited about that. We're also working on, the city received a Grants for Arts NEA grant that we're collaborating with to renew our sculptures for 2023. So that's really exciting. As I mentioned, the Rosens provided the initial funding for that program, which is pretty much, we've ended that funding, and now with the idea was that we could get new funding to be able to continue the program, in perpetuity. So we received NEA funding to do that, so we're working on that right now. And then we're also going to be implementing Arts Master Plan strategies in collaboration with the city, led by Jordan Miller. I know I'm probably way past my 5 minutes, so I'm going to zoom through programming at JSP. I just had to mention, we're going to be doing all our normal tours that we do, virtual program Artists in Residence, and Juneteenth at JSP with Keith McGill. Grow With Us is another program that's happening at the park right now, and I just wanted to mention it because when you come to the park and you go to the parking lot, you're going to say, what in the world are these people doing here at the sculpture park? It's because it looks crazy, because we've been very aggressively removing invasive honeysuckle to recreate the amphitheater space in partnership with Inside Out Landscape Design, and we're using the honeysuckle to build these giant nests that will be sculptural elements within the landscape design that will recreate the amphitheater in a whole new way. This is a year-long project. It looks totally crazy out there right now, but we have volunteer days every Saturday morning, and you can come and bring your kids and build some nests, and it's a lot of fun. And this, you may have seen in the paper, which I'm super excited about. We've been working on the barn at the park, and we have renovated it to the point where we're going to have our first concert actually in the barn. Amethyst Kia, who's a Grammy-nominated artist and starts her European tour this summer after leaving the sculpture park.
We're launching that year.
We're like launching the European tour. Yeah, this is super exciting. Tickets are on sale now. They're very limited. We only have about 225 seats in the barn. We sold over 100 tickets like in the last week since they went on sale. So if you're interested and you want to come, please get on the website and get the tickets. And that is my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions from you guys, and I'm sorry that I went over 5 minutes.
I just want to thank you for all you do.
You're welcome.
Awesome.
Thank you guys for supporting what we do. I mean, supporting it in words and in clapping, and also financially with support. All of it matters. All of it helps us do what we do. So I'm thrilled to be able to do it, and I know everybody that works with me. I do not do this alone by any stretch. So there's a lot of people, including people at the city and people at the county and people at lots of other organizations that help too. So, and I did bring a few pieces of stuff that I just thought I'd leave with you guys. Some of you may have seen some of these things, but just our new brochure, the Grow With Us with Inside Out, and the newsletter from last fall, because I haven't been here in such a long time.
I have
Are
a
there any other
couple.
questions?
Commissioner
Yes, I had a question from someone that said they were wondering if the property owners downtown outside of their shops have any say on what structures, or if they can have a structure outside their place.
Absolutely.
Okay, and then the other question is there a plan or a strategic plan for the placement of all of your structures downtown? Or are they
No.
just sort of sporadically?
That
Cut out.
depends. I will
Okay.
say no, and there are many factors. The ones that are placed on city sidewalks, there's a lot of, I mean, I can't just put them anywhere, right? So there's underground utility stuff that we have to work around, and there's other city, public works projects. I talk with Katie pretty frequently, and certainly before we do anything, so that I make sure that we're not putting things in places that we shouldn't, or that there aren't, trees gonna be planted, or all these other things. So it would be difficult to have a strategic plan for the placement of those. The other thing is, we do the call, we don't know what the sculptures are gonna be that
Right.
people are gonna submit. And so a lot of it is, once we do that call and then we make the selection of what we think are the best pieces to fit for the community, then we start thinking about individually where they should go.
Okay.
And sometimes it is that businesses or organizations or the city or whomever has said, it would be really nice to have one in this spot, and so we'll try to accommodate that.
Okay.
But other times we're like, we have 10 sculptures, where can we put them that they're not gonna be in the way of other things? And so sometimes then we'll approach a business and say, could we put a sculpture in your lawn that's like sort of on the sidewalk, but then it doesn't impede the sidewalk, but it still can be, publicly viewed, and part of the tour. So
If a shop is interested, they can contact you if they
Absolutely.
would definitely like one near the
yeah,
door.
definitely. And especially for murals too. That's obviously very much requires property owner not only input, but they also make a financial contribution to help make the mural happen. So,
And
yeah.
the one on Bridge Street, the corner there that you're getting the input from Second, is that going to be something that stays, or will that also be something that
Stays.
changes?
That one will
eventually?
stay. So that was
Okay.
part of an NEA grant to commission and purchase a permanent sculpture for that site. There was other stuff in the grant too, and we got a partial funding. So with the partial funding, Rebecca Hall and I talked about it, and we decided we couldn't do the other stuff, but we could purchase that one and purchase the one on the north end of Bridge Street as well. And so we we went back to the NEA and said we'd like to make this adjustment, which we just got approval from that in February. So, you know, we made a kind of slight change, but both of those will be permanent,
Okay.
city-owned sculptures.
Okay. And you're only working with Frankfort Independent Schools with that sculpture that's
With
sitting-
the one that's down there, yes. And that
That's
was
on
part
that
of
corner.
Tiger Street project
Yeah.
is, that was through the Tiger Street grant that the
Yeah.
artist in residence happened and that we got the input from the students. Because the city and whoever else is involved with the Tiger Street program wanted input from local youth.
Right.
And so we worked specifically with Frankfort Independent Schools to get that input because it's in their space, you know,
Right.
it's like in their neighborhood and they're gonna walk by it going home from school or to the gym or whatever. And so we wanted them to have some input on that.
Okay.
And of course, the input we got was, you know, everything you could imagine, and we tried to distill
That's
it
why I
down.
was like, oh goodness, what came out.
Yeah,
But
well,
they
so
have a
I'll
lot
tell
of great
ya.
minds and a lot of great artists down there as well. But.
Yeah, so I mean, there was a lot, but Jerry worked with several different age groups, and then she really kind of distilled, you know, what are the core themes here.
Okay.
And one that came up again and again and again was the natural landscape, like of that area. So like the river and the Palisades and that kind of thing. So
Okay.
that's going to be kind of the theme that we're going with, and that we're going to encourage the artists to research, to, you know, do their RFQs. Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll see. You know, it's always like, well, I hope they really get it. Like, I hope,
Yeah.
you know, you say the natural landscape, and like, I don't want like a seahorse, you know, like that's not really going to work. But so we're trying to give them very specific information about
Okay.
that local, like really the local flora and fauna of this little piece of the Kentucky River watershed. So we hope that, you know, will result in some really interesting thing. And it also has to be, I mean, you know, we're trying to go as low maintenance as possible
Okay.
for all of us.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
Appreciate all you do.
Yeah,
Thank you. Any other questions?
And I love the bird nest. I want to go watch.
The
That
what?
excited me.
Oh, the
bird
nest.
nest.
You
Oh my
got to
gosh,
get out
super
there and see
cool.
them. Yeah, that was Andrea's idea. Andrea Muller of Inside Out Design, and there's still going to be like these paths that go through there, and she and Michael have been out there like staking off these nests, and you know, they're donating all their time and the design and the work and
Awesome.
everything, which is huge.
She's got a brilliant design mind.
It's really, yeah, so that's one of the things I'm gonna give you guys too,
Okay.
just because I have some extra ones. But that is all on the website as well, so if anybody wants
Put
more
them over there.
information.
We'll get
yeah.
some on the way out.
I will
Thank
link
you
over
so
there.
much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Melanie. Next up, we have Jesse Gross from Enterprise Fleet Management to discuss a new program we would like to pursue for the city of Frankfort. I'll have Jesse explain all the details, but this equity leasing program, I would say it is not your parents' leasing program. It's different, and it's a great alternative to be able to finance vehicles and lower our upfront costs to replace the many, many, many vehicles that the city needs. I've confirmed with city managers from Corbin and Georgetown that they're very happy with the program. They've saved money. And with BOC approval, we'd like to probably start with Parks and Public Works and maybe a few other departments and replacing needed vehicles, and then expanding to others once we see how things go. So thanks, Jesse, for coming forward.
Yes, thank you so much for having us. I've enjoyed getting to come to Frankfort and see, I mean, literally I was sitting in the car and said, I may move here. It's just a lot of great things that you all have going, and Enterprise, we are a local, why we leverage a national resource. We are very local, and I have myself, my name's Jessie, and I work on the front end side of bringing on new partners, primarily in the government space. That is my passion, to see how can we create more of a sustainable plan as it relates to vehicles, but knowing that money can go to fund bigger and better projects. So it comes for 4 wheels and a box for us, but we want to see it have a bigger, greater impact for your city. And so I'm on front end. I did bring a team with me. I've got Talon Woods. She would be your client strategy manager, because my strategy and my scope is the front end of how do I get you going on a great plan and one that's sustainable, but then her goal is to look at this, link arms with you every single year, multiple times a year, to see, is this working? Does this make sense? Are we doing what we said we were gonna do? How can we get scrappy and keep moving forward? And then my director, Billy Snyder, he is over our group at Bluegrass. We are all based out of Louisville, but cover the whole state of Kentucky and southern Indiana. After meeting with, and Katie kind of kicked this off and having this discussion, and then it's kind of bled into different departments, which is great. I actually met with KSU on Friday, so
Okay.
I'm getting a little bit of the KSU vibe all throughout the week. But really, truly, at the end of the day, in its simplest form for you all, as a government, you buy vehicles low, and enterprise can then sell them high. And that was happening even before COVID. We know there are multiple, moving parts in the fleet world that we look at. That's all I look at every day, multiple times a day. I can't imagine having the duties and responsibilities of, as directors or city managers and mayors, I can't, and commissioners, I can't imagine having to consider all the moving parts between limited windows, limited vehicle inventory, exceeding MSRP prices, and all of those things, and not to mention just having a plan for your maintenance. The big kicker for your fleet that I see across the board is maintenance cost, where given all of these moving factors that come with operating a fleet nowadays, you're going to have to choose on your own. You would have to choose, do I pay $10,000 to $15,000 over MSRP, or do I sink $7,000 into repairing and maintaining an old vehicle that is burning up more fuel than it should, which, especially with fuel costing an arm, a leg, a kidney, and a week's worth of plasma, that's a lot. So trying to leverage and bringing down those operating costs with a newer, fresher fleet improves your safety, saves you money by cycling vehicles. Every vehicle has a unique sweet spot. So what we're looking at is if you're operating a sedan or a hybrid vehicle or an electric vehicle or a single axle truck or a dump truck or a half-ton truck, all of those vehicles have a unique spot where it makes sense to then cycle out of it so you can take advantage of the value and that equity and then roll it into your next vehicle, which then lowers your cost. So there are multiple different ways to explain it, but it's buy low, sell high. And especially in now the market right now, you have a great opportunity, but you have to be planning a year in advance, and in order to take advantage of not having to throw that money out at reacting. I kept hearing that word through other presentations of how to not be reactive, and that's truly our goal. While we work with vehicles, we're truly financial long-term planners, and the value of that equity lease, that is, I like that introduction of, it's not like our mom and dad's leasing. The difference is there's no wear and tear. There's no over mileage. There's no early termination fee. It's a moving target. We can adjust that lease and its term without a penalty because we want you to take advantage of that sweet spot. So, for example, given the market and the trend of vehicles selling so well right now, we would adjust your terms and be coming to you. Let's say you had a 48-month term on a vehicle. We're coming to you in month 24 saying, you could sell this for more than you bought it and more than you've put into it and actually generate equity, which could come back to the city in the form of a check. But I usually recommend rolling it to your next vehicle so your payments become lower. And you have a newer vehicle that's burning up less fuel and you're only doing routine preventative maintenance and stabilizing things and having a plan that can both be flexible but evolve based on all these other moving parts, and then also how your vehicles are driving. Everyone's unique. I've got a lot of info, but I really, more so than anything, I could talk all day about what we do because we're very passionate about it, but would love to answer your questions if you have any. No question is too lofty or too silly.
And maybe from the PowerPoint that we shared earlier in the packets.
Yes, and I have some of that to reference too. The main things in that packet to look at, there's a page that looks like this. It's our reference list, and I believe you followed up with most of them, and great recommendations. And the other part that I really would, if I were looking at that, I would look to the last pages where it shows just the industry currently, what it's been doing. You see windows of opportunity to order the vehicles that you need. decreasing. So historically, we would have a year to figure out which vehicle, and I could be bringing multiple vehicles to you to say what's the lowest cost to operate, but those days are gone. You've got to jump while you can and get the best vehicle ordered a year in advance. Vehicles that if we were to order a vehicle for you today, it's not going to arrive until next year, which the silver lining to that is we can track your data. We can start helping you lower your maintenance right now just by negotiating on your behalf. You can still use your in-house shop, but you could also outsource and be tracking it to say exactly how much it's costing you, being transparent about each vehicle and each department's cost while we wait for the new ones. But when you miss that window now, you're sinking later. And I want to get you out of that place where you're reacting of, oh, a vehicle went down. Now I've got to choose. Am I going to rob Peter to pay Paul out of which fund? And can I even find the vehicle that I need? Trucks and SUVs and vans were hit the hardest. You can't find them. You look at dealer lots now. I mean, they're parking them sideways just to take up space. And so that's where we want to have a plan with you that is proactive and sustainable and always looking ahead to the future, but also right now, what do you need? And I think that's kind of where we landed right now, just urgently. We had 2 explorers come up internally, and the amount of people that wanted to go to a bar fight over it was insane, just because people need safer vehicles and need more reliable vehicles. And then there's the soft cost of brand image and employee morale too, that comes with that. I will, the other question I usually get about our lease that's most typical is, let's say we didn't want to do this. Let's say the city decided to no longer partner with Enterprise Fleet Management. All you're responsible for is that balance at the end that you're looking at on your term. You're paying off your balance, you own the vehicle, we give it back to you. Or let's say you don't have the capital to pay off the balances that you have for a number of vehicles. We'll just finance them down to 0, and when it gets to 0, you own it. We won't be knocking on your door to have conversations, to make recommendations. We just kind of part ways. I don't foresee that happening, but if it were, there's no fee to that at all. You could also order vehicles yesterday, and today you decide we do not want those. I promise you I'll find a home for them. I have a lot of people waiting in line to get them. So there really is no risk. The only reason people truly don't partner with us is that L word of having a traditional mindset surrounded that lease word. But once they hear it's more like a market value finance, that's really all it is. So. And I know, Lisa, we had talked just briefly. I wanted to highlight to your question about just as we move towards, as our current administration moves towards more of an electrified fleet and a hybrid fleet that is reducing your carbon footprint. Enterprise is very much devoted to that, and we are leading that charge and capturing data to say, not all vehicles make sense to operate like that, to operate as a hybrid or an electric vehicle. So we can help guide you through those discussions as it makes sense for you. We've got the data to support it, and can definitely evaluate that as infrastructure grows and as need grows. And gosh, even with gas being what it is now, you're seeing a shift, more so where people are going more electric. So
Yeah,
we can definitely help provide that insight. And it's still your fleet. That's all we're doing is providing the data to substantiate a recommendation to then put money back into your budget. That's truly it.
And we have the draft contract that our city solicitor will be reviewing this week, but would hear any other concerns if it's the will of the board that we pursue this.
Yes.
We've been having lots of meetings, and I think with the fire chief and with Parks and Public Works, that we would recommend moving forward with it.
This has been an enjoyable process
So
too.
we're just doing routine maintenance. And
Sorry?
we're just doing routine maintenance.
That's where I want you to get. The newer and fresher your fleet is,
Yeah.
you'll just be doing your routine preventative instead of major repairs. And so what I would propose is, the way that this would look like is phasing in, and each department's phase in is going to look different. Each department's vehicle types are going to be different, but phasing into the program over the course of 5 years, you can, if you want to rip a Band-Aid, we could rip a Band-Aid and see a substantial front-end savings, but that's traditionally not the best way to go. I think phasing in so you can start to see some equity built, and your new vehicles, Mayor, they'd be on a budgeted maintenance. it'd be done. You're not guessing anymore. We would track and monitor all your own vehicles because we recognize we can help you with the new purchases and help take advantage of this timing and planning. But then you've also got your own fleet, so we have oversight into that too to be able to help you make those decisions on should you repair this or should we replace it, and what makes the most financial sense, what's available, what do you want to do. But as the fleet gets on, you should be on a budgeted maintenance line item.
And Byron Roberts has volunteered to be the fleet manager.
Oh, yay!
good.
So,
He and I
I'm in
had a
support.
great discussion also.
I'm in support. I supported in 2019 when we had a presentation, but we didn't have a vote then in 2019 for that particular one, because I was at our KLC conference in CVG, which is the Covington area.
Yes.
And myself and another commissioner was very interested in this. We did bring it back to the commission in 2019, but it was not completely voted on, and then COVID happened, so it was not a necessity. But no, I'm glad that it's brought back and that we could probably use this. And I think in the direction that we're going, and I think it will help save money moving forward now that we're trying to make sure that our budgets are going to be great, hopefully going into 2024 and making sure that some of those are balanced. So I think it's definitely worth the shot. I think it's going to help with increase more than anything. And if we see that we need to get out, then we have that option to do that without really losing a whole bunch, just owning a couple of vehicles if we want.
Right.
So,
Thank you,
appreciate
and thank you for being a
it.
proponent of it also. It's
Yeah,
a lot to
thanks.
comprehend, but that's,
Yeah.
I want to be coming back and delivering to you, or telling, maybe I'll put it back on her, but we want to be coming back and delivering outcome, like this is
Yeah.
what we did, this is how we succeeded for you, here's how we can continue to improve. And that's what we want to keep doing with you. So thank you.
Sounds good.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't know if you wanted to add anything. I'm sorry, I left you out.
We're going to hear from Sean anyway.
He's like, I'm good. We look forward to working with you, Talon.
All right, thank you. Thank you all.
Our next discussion item, Sean, and this is timely, given Mr. Heckard's comment as well, to present information on our bid for a new portable restroom vendor.
Alright, and back to restrooms again. Restrooms was in the top 3 most needed things in parks, so it
There we
makes
go.
sense that we talk a lot about restrooms from the master plan.
Well, it was brought up in comments earlier.
Yep,
And
brought up in the
citizen
comments.
so-
and, yeah, we hear almost every day we get a call about a restroom,
Yeah.
clogged up here or closed here or not, we're doing this over here, there's no restroom, and so we deal with it on a daily basis. So we've been internally trying to, work towards improving our restroom situation in parks as a whole. Like everything else, good restrooms are expensive, just like everything else. But in the past, we've relied heavily on portable restrooms, your typical portable restroom that you see at events and things like that, just because we do have a lack of brick and mortar restrooms in parks, just like we've talked about Dolly Graham, a lack of them there. That's East Frankfort, really all of our parks. Really, we had about 500 people at Reforest Frankfort, and all we had were portable restrooms. It was okay for that just one time event, but we've had 300-400 students at an archery contest at Cove Spring, and no bathrooms. So that's just one example. For years, well before my time with the city, we had basically had picked a company and, hey, bring us restrooms, and you bring them for this park, bring them from that park, whatever. And we, over the past several years, we've had a pretty good working relationship with them. Everything ran pretty smooth, but really over the last year and a half, 2 years during COVID, the quality of the restroom started to go downhill. The servicing, we'd go 2, 3, 4 weeks without servicing. And so we knew we needed to make a change. We didn't really have a contract with anybody or anything like that. So a lot of like the downtown events, the concert series, a lot of folks downtown and other events, they always would call parks and say, hey, can you rent us restrooms? And so we would always be kind of renting on their behalf, and then we'd work out, okay, is the city going to pay for them as a sponsorship, or we're going to pay half of them, or should they pay for them? So it really got confusing and convoluted, and everybody it kind of started to be, well, parks will just kind of pay for the restrooms, and we'll order them. So we were doing all the ordering and scheduling, and hey, set them there, clean them now, do this, do that. So we were kind of, taking on a lot of the portable restroom, responsibilities, right or wrong. So we kind of decided, let's put out a new bid. They're in poor condition. They're in high demand currently. So we put out a bid to at least go into some type of a contract so we can get it kind of under control a little bit and get better quality units and better service. That was kind of the main reason for doing it. We only got one bid back, which I was hoping for more. We contacted, I know we directly contacted at least 5 after we released the bid. We contacted at least 5 asking them, hey, this is out here. Here's our website. Go to the city's website. All the bid information's there. Contact Angie Dispinette with any questions. So we tried to push it because it's been hard to get bids lately. But so we only got one bid. I'm assuming that everybody, everybody's needing portable restrooms now, especially as we're coming out of COVID and things are lining back up. There's a high demand for them. So I think they have more work than they know what to do with, is my guess. So we got the bid back. So these are for our long-term, 16 total units. 8 of those being ADA units, 8 being standard units. So that's 16, and 13 of those will be 12 months out of the year at various parks. Riverview Park is one of those as well. We'll have an ADA and a standard unit at both the parking lot and at the Ward Oats Amphitheater. Then 3 of the 16 are 7-month portable units at our pickleball courts at East Frankfort, a couple of different areas where we don't typically need them year-round. Then also part of the bid was to give the city a price if, Downtown Frankfort Inc. or, a group was having an event downtown or out at the sculpture park or something like that, another city agency or another group, and they wanted to get technically the city's contracted price, that then they could ask the bidders to give us a price on those. So that was also in the bid. So if somebody wanted to rent them for a special event, so that's outside of our daily. So that would be a separate fee that would be put on. Either we would sponsor that, or that individual entity would take care of that cost. So for those 16 total units, for 13 of them being year-round, was $27,725 for an entire year, and that includes servicing them 2 times a week, 7 months out of the year. Maybe from time to time that's overkill. We might not really need servicing that much. I don't know, but I wanted to go a little bit high on servicing so that they were being dumped, so that way they were better quality. Then 3 of them only being 5 of them only being serviced once a week, 5 months out of the year. So. Let me rephrase that. Twice a week, 7 months out of the year. Once a week, all of them all together, 5 months out of the year. So in the winter months, we're only going to service them once a week. In the summer and spring, twice a week. So, in my opinion, the pros, this would give us a contract, something to hold them to it. So if the service declines or something's broken, we've got something in writing and signed and approved by you all, and we can hold their feet to the fire a little bit more. Okay. Another pro, they're more servicing. We're having them serviced more frequently, so hopefully they'll be in better condition, better overall quality units, and then also, like I just mentioned, the downtown city events and programs they can rent off the city's contracted price and get a better deal. Then really the biggest con is the price. It is more expensive in this bid package. It's more expensive than what we were paying for just getting them individually and when we were needing them. So we estimate, going back and looking through all our records, in an annual year we spent anywhere between $15,000 to $17,500 on portable restrooms, cleaning and renting them. So the bid came in at $27,725. So we're looking at about $10,000 more. So that's the biggest con there as well. So just wanted to get your feedback. We can we can go with another company that wasn't on the bid and just go back to renting them individually, kind of the way we were doing it before. We can do that. And I've got another company that we've worked with a little bit on. Dolly Graham, going to provide a couple for the summer months as we're talking about permanent restrooms down there. We've gone with a separate company than the one we were having issues with. And so we can do that. We can go with a different company without a contract and just rent them individually as we need them and place them and put them in, take them out. We can kind of go the traditional route, or we can. The other option is to go with this bid, or I guess the third option is we can scrap this bid, we can deny this bid, rebid it again, and hopefully get more competitive pricing. To the best of my knowledge, just by doing some spot checking and a few calls, this is pretty industry standard as far as when you look at the broke down prices, $75 per standard unit and $95 per ADA unit. That's pretty standard. You can find some of them around the $60, $65 range per unit. Some are as much as $85 or $90 per unit. So this is pretty close to industry standard. If we rebid it, could we get it cheaper? We very well could. I don't know that, but we could. So that's kind of the options that we're looking at. So just kind of want to get your feedback and direction to move forward. Or answer any
What was your
questions.
con?
The cost? The overall cost it would be more than what we were paying just individually renting them. But we didn't have a contract. If the service went down, then we're more work on us. We're calling other places. Then we started having mismatches of different portable restrooms and this and that.
So this would be less trouble on you. This would keep them consistently there where we're not moving around or putting one here and there.
Yes.
This would also keep our staff available to do other things versus always making sure that a toilet is sitting here or there.
Yes.
I would assume in this contract, is this a yearly contract where we, like you said, we're having problems with the last people that we were dealing with? If we have problems with this, is it only a year-to-year basis? What does that look like?
We would work that out. If the decision is to move forward with this, we would work that out. The more detailed terms.
Okay.
And I'm sure we'd probably have
I'm
a
certain we
30-day
could-
out clause or something.
Yes, and I'm certain we could do a 1 year with options to renew or whatever that might be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of similar to a lot of our MOAs with soccer and other things that we do.
When's the last time we had a contract with anyone?
We've never had one as far as I know. We just kind of randomly rented them.
And why did we decide to bid it out this time?
The conditions of them had just gotten so poor. The servicing, they weren't getting service for weeks on end, and we asked to be, they were, toilet holder was knocked off, and we said, hey, can you come replace that? And it never got replaced, and they weren't being cleaned. And
But here we have something to hold their feet to the fire where.
this would give us something a little more concrete.
More professional.
Yes, yeah, instead of us just renting them periodically. And,
Right.
okay, well, you're not doing a very good job, so now we gotta get rid of you and go with somebody else. And then, we very well could go with another company and they work out fine, and then we move on, or we may not either, too, so.
Any other questions?
Well, I do think our citizens would appreciate the consistency of cleaner porta potties. I've seen the decline in all the parks.
Yeah.
And even downtown. So they didn't have, the previous company, they didn't have like a regular cleaning schedule, or did we have to call them?
They did have a regular cleaning schedule.
But they didn't follow it.
They
just-
didn't follow it.
They
Okay.
just kind of,
Okay.
they did, then they didn't, then they did, then they didn't, then they just pretty much didn't.
Yeah.
They just kind of did this number and just went downhill. We talked to them, we had conversations with them, and they're like, we understand, we know, we've had, I think the owner of the company had sold it to somebody else, and they were trying to get their bearings, and it was just, so.
I know it's a little bit more, but as stated earlier in citizen comments and as stated to many of us over the past year, something bathrooms are a huge concern. I think that we should go ahead and move with this, as Ms. Ross stated, we can have a 30-day out. We can look at the contract at the end of this year. Once we get bathrooms like in Dolly Graham and we move forward with some of our more structure that we're going to keep, it then should make the next year cheaper
Yes.
for this particular
The
contract,
hope-
and I
the
think
hope
that would be
is
worth it.
to move away from the need.
Correct.
Outside of big events and stuff, we'll always need them for that. But for just
Right.
day-to-day stuff, just people coming to the park to
Right.
walk,
Yeah.
we're hoping to move away
Right.
from this.
So next
It'll-
year, we shouldn't need them for Dolly Graham. We would need them for other places that we may not have gotten our
Yeah,
structural
exactly.
facility. So that should lower each
Yeah.
year
As we-
until
as
we
we
don't
work
need them
towards-
just for facilities
Yeah.
or for events.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's our overall goal, is to hopefully to start moving away from porta potties in general as a whole. We'll still need a few here and there for different things, but
Is this feasible in your budget, or would you be asking for? Is this going into your next budget, or is
This.
this in this budget for this cycle?
it's feasible.
It's feasible.
Yes.
Okay.
Like I said, we spend anywhere between 15 and 20,000.
Right.
It's hard to pinpoint exactly because you got to go back and look through a bazillion invoices, and we've tried to do that. We've come pretty close to, like I said, between 15 and 20,000 is what we spend annually anyway, just renting them.
Okay.
So this contract's for 27, so we're not crazily above what we're paying now, but we're also, like, again, we're servicing them more frequently. You know, before we were only having them service one time a week, you know, all the
Okay.
time, and that was if they did it.
Yeah.
You know, this is servicing them, most of them, 2 times a week now. So that is the reason for an increased cost as well.
I would say move forward with it, in my opinion, and I would just say when you go back to just try to do a little bit more negotiating to see if we can get it down just a little bit more.
Yeah.
But do what you can, and I would be okay with moving forward with it. I'm not
And
sure
we'll
what
put
the
this
others
on, the plans put this on the voting agenda
think. Okay,
for this coming 2 weeks.
that's
So
great.
you can chew on it some more, and contact us with questions, and we can take a vote at the end of the month.
We will consider that.
Perfect.
No, no,
We'll see how it flushes.
Thank you.
I like that. Clear direction. Thanks, Shonda.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
You know
Okay,
I'm
moving on to action items. All right, we have a public hearing and first reading. I need to recess that. Adjourn.
Is that how we usually do it, Jermaine? Adjourn or just recess?
I think we just
Recess is fine.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll now go into a recess so we can go into a public hearing. And do you need a motion to, we have a motion to?
A motion to recess, Mayor.
Okay. All those in
Second.
favor? Good.
Aye.
Aye, everyone in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
All right, so now going to recess. And then I'll gavel in, public hearing. All right, now we're going into a public hearing. And this is a first reading, looking for a sponsor.
Sorry, we'll
Oh,
sponsor.
actually,
No, it's just.
No, it's a-
yeah, you don't.
Okay, yeah.
Not
this
on-
is,
is
sorry,
just
Mayor,
the
just
public
to
hearing.
explain a little bit, this is the public hearing to receive any comments that we might have regarding it. Then we'll go back into our meeting and do the
Got it.
first reading.
Okay, do we have any comments on this proposed ordinance? Do you want to read it, or do I need to read it?
We don't have to during the public hearing.
Any comments?
No comments? Pass. Does it have to be a certain amount of time?
No.
Oh, so now we can
Seeing
go out.
none or hearing none?
Seeing
Okay.
none, hearing none.
We'll now close the public hearing and go back into our normal session, work session.
Make a motion.
I make a motion to go out of public hearing.
Second.
And we have a second? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we'll now go back into our regular session. Moving on to action item number 5.
We're doing a first
Now
reading.
we do
Okay,
the
now
first
you do the
reading.
first reading,
Yes.
you're looking for a
And I
sponsor.
will
It's complicated
sponsor.
when we do these public hearings.
Sponsored by Commissioner Waldridge.
An ordinance of the City of Frankfort, Kentucky, the city establishing a local development area for economic development purposes within the City of Frankfort, Kentucky, to be known as the Paddocks, the Frankfort Local Development Area, the local development area, approving a local development area agreement, establishing an incremental tax special fund for payment of redevelopment assistance, designating the Department of Finance of the City of Frankfort, Kentucky as the agency responsible for oversight, administration, and implementation of the local development area, and authorizing the mayor and other officials to take such appropriate actions as are necessary or required in connection with the establishment of the local development area. This ordinance establishes the Paddocks of Frankfort Local Development Area for economic development purposes within the city of Frankfort, approves a local development area agreement, establishes an incremental tax special fund for payment of redevelopment assistance, designates the city finance department as the agency responsible for oversight, administration, and implementation, and authorizes the mayor and other officials to take appropriate action connected with the development area.
And thank you, Mayor. If I may add, this the local development agreement, y'all initially approved on February 28th. And this TIF agreement is I would say the launch pad for the development of Paddocks to bring new restaurants and missing retail to Frankfort within the city limits, and as part of our efforts to focus on infill development. This development is really important to the city and as we work to attract new investment and support new businesses, so we can grow our economy and our budget to replace the loss of state occupational tax revenue that the city continues to experience. And also, most importantly, this is a nice big first step in implementing one of the priorities of our strategic plan, which is economic development.
Okay, thank you. Good to see everyone from the Paddocks. And thank you for being on here, Jim. I don't know if we have any questions or discussion. If we don't. Thanks for your time, and we'll move on to action item number 5.
Thank you, Mayor. The city's finance director, Alicia Boyd, presented at the work session last month on the municipal order to create the finance committee for the city. At this time, we would welcome the BOC in nominating 2 members who would serve.
I'd make the motion to
Commissioner May.
nominate Mayor Wilkerson and Commissioner Unger to serve on the Finance Committee.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion, Commissioner May, and a second, Commissioner Waldridge. Any discussion on this?
Are you still a yes, Lisa?
I'm a
Okay.
yes.
I'm happy to do it.
Maybe a question on does there need to be anything about the length of the term? Is it just assumed that it's the term of the office?
Yeah, we didn't put that in there, but I think we will do this, we can maybe make an amendment and do this, to say it will be, let's do it every 2
budget?
years.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna say every budget
Or we could do it every year, which would, do you all have a preference,
Wow.
every year?
I'd say every budget cycle.
Okay,
Because with the commissioners,
Yeah.
Maybe length
2-year
of term.
terms.
yeah,
Length of term?
Maybe
It's up for you.
every year.
every year, okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right, we'll do it at budget time every year.
You'll just get re-put on.
Any other
I'll
discussion?
still
Good
be in
question. Okay. I'll ask the clerk to call for a vote.
Commissioner Waldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner May,
Yes.
Commissioner Unger,
Yes, and excited.
Mayor Wilkerson.
I'm glad you're excited.
Yes. That is great. Enthusiastic. So that motion carries. All right. We'll move on to action item number 6.
The Public Works Department, as you've just recently heard from Katie, was talking about stormwater and stormwater issues, is seeking approval for the mayor to sign the 2021 Phase 2 MS4 annual report for the city of Frankfort and Franklin County on behalf of the city. The city of Frankfort is required to have a program in place to perform tasks associated with preventing stormwater runoff from becoming polluted. These tasks include education of the staff and public, preventative measures, and maintenance activities. The report is due April 15th, so that is why we needed to bring it to the work session.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on this action item? Okay, on the motion, I should say. All right, seeing none or hearing none, clerk, will you call for vote, please?
Commissioner Waldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner May,
Yes.
Commissioner Unger,
Yes.
Mayor Wilkerson.
Yes. And that motion carries, leading us to action item number 7.
Thank you, Mayor. The purpose of this agenda item is to seek commission approval for the final balancing change order to the contract with SWAC Incorporated, doing business as 7 Seas Construction, for the Blanton Acres Stormwater Improvements Project, which actually Katie Beard referred to earlier. The Blanton Acres Stormwater Improvements Project has been completed, but this change order of $22,630 will pay for additional materials that were needed to finish the project. And our KIA loan has budget availability to pay for this.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion, Commissioner Waldridge, second, Commissioner May. Any discussion? Seeing none or hearing none, city clerk,
Commissioner Waldridge.
Yes.
Commissioner May,
Yes.
Commissioner Unger,
Yes.
Mayor Wilkerson.
Yes. That motion carries. All right, that completes our action items. We'll move on to the discussion of the tentative agenda for the voting session. I have the enterprise leasing. I have the portable bathroom contract. I have the TIF development agreement. The land water, the grant, parks grant. Any, what else?
Could we put on there, for an update on Dolly Graham? There's a lot of communication going on Facebook that, there's things not going on and they don't think the splash pad, so I'd prefer an update for parks to let them know. Hopefully they're still on track for the splash pad to be ready for the spring.
Yep.
Okay. That's all I had on the voting session. Any others? Okay. Moving on to unfinished business.
I had one item.
Commissioner Waldridge?
I know I'd spoke with, city manager earlier, in the day, in regards to KCDC moving forward, and I was just wondering when that meeting would be rescheduled as well. That was supposed to be, how many ever times, I don't even know how many times it's been scheduled, but looking to see if we can get that rescheduled and on the books.
We are working right now on rescheduling that. I'm hopeful for early May.
Okay.
There's a few other things, research that we're still doing, and like we talked about before, we would present a number of options and to discuss, to educate the commission for working with KCDC moving forward, including, of course, having Terry Bradshaw come and speak as well about her vision for KCDC as well as the other options.
Can we put this on, that I was gonna bring new business, for the May work session? Or do we have to have a special meeting?
I would recommend a special meeting. I think there's gonna be lots of discussions, and we'll also bring in our outside expert who we hired to help us research, and I think it would be good for him to present.
And the person that we hired, are they in contact with Miss Terry as well and speaking with Terry Bradshaw from KCDC, or are they going from our vision or our side of it, and who's communication with them?
They're looking strictly at the documents.
Okay.
Any of the documents, bylaws, the audit, just the legal documents, state statutes, and looking at a legal perspective to analyze what are the options.
So when will KCDC be pulled into that communication?
When he has completed the work, which we expect to be towards the end of April,
Okay.
when a draft will be ready.
Okay. And moving on to new business. Can we bring back the abandoned properties?
Please.
Yes. Oh, yeah, that
I
was.
don't want it to
yeah.
take place of any, if we have any other things
Yes.
currently working on, I don't want it to be in place of something else, but if we can get that going again.
Yes.
I would love to hear a directive from you all. It sounds like I'm seeing
Yes.
it. So
Yes.
to spend that some time prioritizing that. If that's the case, I am more than happy to do so. We have some really good ideas and we've been working on it consistently, but I need some sit down time to actually to spend some time putting that together. So I will prioritize that, and when I tell you all that is what I'm working on, you all will be supportive, I'm sure.
Backtrack out of the office, yeah. Okay. But
Thank
no, I
you.
think that was a good one. I had a couple of calls because grass is now getting tall at some of these abandoned places, and that is also increasing our cost of mowing and things of that nature because we contract that out.
That's very
So
true.
as soon as we can get those properties in the hands of developers or other people that can take those homes over, it would lessen our contract on that as well, so.
And looking at a vacant, some type of incentive too on certain properties of a certain size, similar to what other communities have done to incentivize. So there's multiple things there that we could do. It's not just one thing.
That's right.
Definitely. And I think I'd mentioned before that, once we know that we have so many that one developer or one person doesn't get them all, it's show proof that you can take care of that and be able to move forward. Once you complete that one, you can come back to the playing field to grab another one or things of that nature, but it should be fair across the board and not one particular area or group or person.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Any other new business?
Mayor, I ask that we go into executive session per KRS 61.8101F, discussions which may lead to the appointment of a member of a public agency for the purpose of discussion individuals who may fill the vacant commissioner seat on the Board of Commissioners, and per KRS 61.8101C, litigation by Kyle Thompson versus City of Frankfort, ETAL. Action may be taken in open session.
Second.
We have a second. Go into executive session. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Now go into executive. Thank you all for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thank you, guys.
Welcome back, everyone. We're now in open session.
Mayor, may I make a motion?
Yes, Commissioner Waldridge.
I make a motion to appoint Anne Marie Rosen to fill the vacant commissioner seat on the Board of Commissions for the remainder of the term ending on December 31st, 2022.
And we have a motion to appoint Anna Marie Rosen to the City Commission, term ending December 31st, 2022.
Yes.
Second.
We have a second, Commissioner Unger. Any discussion on this motion?
Call
Okay.
roll.
Seeing none, hearing none, I ask our city clerk to call for a vote, please.
Commissioner Waldridge.
Yes.
Commissioner May.
Yes.
Commissioner Unger.
Yes.
Mayor Wilkerson.
Yes, and that motion carries.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
And all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Thanks, everyone.